Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is one of the greatest games I've ever played. There's no question about it. As someone who grew up with Indiana Jones as one of my childhood heroes, I never thought I'd see a game that could capture that magic again, especially after how badly Disney has mishandled the character. This game feels like the dream I had as a kid, the kind of game I always wanted but couldn't have because of the technological limitations of when I grew up. My first console was an N64, so that's how old I am. And now playing it, it's like everything I imagined and it's real. From the very first moments of the game, it hits you with nostalgia. The opening sequence replays the iconic Raiders of the Lost Ark intro, and it's honestly genius. Not only does it draw you in the right way, but it reminds everyone of what Indiana Jones used to be before Disney took over. The developers knew what they were doing by including that Raiders of the Lost Ark intro, and this whole game is really a love letter to the franchise, and they nailed it. The game constantly reminds you of who Indiana Jones is, whether it's the menus, the cutscenes with the red lines and dots on the map, or the amazing music that plays in the background. And let's talk about the voice acting for a second. Troy Baker kills it as Indiana Jones. His performance is spot on, and it pulls you even deeper into the experience. You feel like you're not just playing as Indy, you feel like you are Indiana Jones thanks to the first-person perspective. At first, like a lot of people, I was skeptical of this choice, but honestly, it worked perfectly. Instead of looking at Indiana Jones from a third-person view, I became him. The story is also fantastic. It's exactly what I wanted from an Indiana Jones game, and it's really like the fourth movie we wanted but we never got. The plot centers around Indiana Jones fighting his favorite nemesis, the Germans, with some supernatural twists thrown in. And unlike the recent films, these supernatural elements still felt grounded in reality. It fits perfectly into the world we know from the first three films, and if you're a fan of those, you're going to love this game. When it comes to gameplay, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle does not disappoint. There's a huge emphasis on stealth, and you'll find yourself putting on disguises like a priest, soldier, or Egyptian worker. A lot of the game revolves around avoiding conflict when you can, because let's face it, Indy doesn't always like a direct confrontation. I only fired my gun 3 times throughout the whole game, and 2 of those were during boss fights. That's how you know it's really Indiana Jones. The action is there when you need it, but it's not all about shooting everything in sight. The puzzles in the game range from simple to challenging, and honestly, some of them reminded me of the original Tomb Raider on PlayStation. To solve them, you really have to think, and sometimes you'll spend a good amount of time working through them. And the whip, oh man, the whip is essential. It's used for climbing, solving puzzles, and traversing gaps. It's one of the most iconic parts of the franchise and the game, and it really feels as central to the gameplay as it should. The exploration aspect is just as good as the main story. You get to travel to so many iconic locations, from Marshall College, which is where Indiana Jones teaches, Vatican City, Egypt, the Himalayas, and more. The settings are rich with history, and there are so many Easter eggs that'll make any Indiana Jones fan smile. You'll find yourself going through catacombs, walking around pyramids, and discovering hidden tombs. It's a dream come true for anyone who's ever wanted to step into Indiana Jones's boots and live out an adventure. And it's not just the main story that's worth your time, there are tons of side quests also. These side missions are rewarding and add even more depth to the experience. If you collect all the relics, there's even a secret ending that'll make you feel like you've really earned something special. Also, the ability to buy adventure books throughout the game, which unlock new areas and points of interest on the map, is such a cool feature. It's all about feeling like you're really exploring as Indiana Jones, and the progression system is seamless, making you feel like you're always on an exciting journey. One of the things that stood out to me, and I'm sure some people will debate it, is the stealth system. It's pretty forgiving, and I get why. If you've seen the films, you know Indiana Jones has a certain level of plot armor. He is the main character, so it makes sense that he can get away with more than an average character would. I played on hard difficulty, and while it wasn't too easy, there were definitely moments where I could slip by without being caught. Still, even with the forgiving system, there were plenty of times where I messed up and had to reload because I got too cocky. But let's talk about the sidekick, Gina. She's a bit of a mixed bag for me. On one hand, she fits the typical Indiana Jones mold, but at times her character just felt like it was written with modern sensibilities in mind, and it kind of pulled me out of the experience. There's this one particular scene toward the end where Gina's tied up and Indy comes to rescue her. As soon as he unties her, she asks what the plan is. He tells her, "I'm saving you and we're getting out of here." The first thing she says to him, "I don't need saving." I mean, come on, she's tied up in a tent about to be executed and she doesn't need saving. It's just ridiculous. It's a small moment, but it was really immersion breaking for me, especially considering how great the rest of the writing is. And if this had happened in the beginning of the game, I might have put the game down altogether. But thankfully, that's one of the very few moments that felt forced in a game that mostly avoided the heavy-handed political writing that's become too common lately. But let's not dwell too much on the negatives. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle has been an absolute dream come true for me. The developers truly captured the magic of Indiana Jones. This is the game I've always wanted. It reminds me of why I loved Indiana Jones in the first place, before everything got muddled with the Disney films. And I'm not even going to get into Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny because honestly, I've chosen to pretend that that movie never happened. This game has done what I thought was impossible. It brought the character back to what he should be. The graphics are jaw-dropping too. I have a beefy setup and playing this in 4K was a visual treat. The environments are gorgeous, the action is intense, and it's all wrapped up in a truly immersive experience. I mean, this is the first game I've intentionally 100%ed since Fallout 3, so that should tell you something about how much fun it is. If you're a fan of Indiana Jones, single-player adventure games, or just enjoy a well-told action story, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a must-play. I cannot recommend it enough. So if you've ever dreamed of living out your own Indiana Jones adventure, this is the game to experience. It's finally happened. It captures the essence of what makes Indy great and delivers a thrilling, immersive experience. I've had the most fun I've had in years playing this, and I'm honestly still thinking about it. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more reviews and gaming content, and remember, it's only GG when you win.